Welcome back, dear friends, to Secrets Behind the Stars, the corner of the internet where feelings take center stage and whispers turn into truth-touched stories. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a heartbeat from our world, and if you'd like to support us more closely, tap that join button and stay by our side. Tonight, we open a door to one of the most intimate confessions to drift out of Turkish television, a revelation that isn't about popularity or rivalry, but about the courage it takes to be honest with oneself. This is an unseen page in the life of Ebru and Akın. Under the bright, relentless glare of the industry, where a glance can be read like a headline and a pause can become a rumor, Ebru always seemed untouched by the rush around her. She held herself with a stillness people quietly admired, composed, grounded, and fiercely protective of the borders to her inner world. Yet even the calmest sea hides undertows, and the stories she kept were never gone, they merely waited for the right hush to rise. That hush found her in a therapist's office, a space where cameras cannot intrude and applause cannot reach. According to a close friend, Ebru didn't walk through that door for publicity, or to follow a trend of wellness. She went for a reason far more human, to sit with feelings she had folded away, carefully, for years. And those feelings were tied, inevitably, to a name the public could never quite forget. Akın. Their chapter had always carried the texture of mystery. From the moment they shared the screen, audiences saw something that felt too alive to be only performance, a sincerity that made people speculate and hope. But the two of them never fed the guessing game. They let the ambiguity stand, let questions float unanswered, and allowed time to thicken the silence between what was said and what was felt. In one quiet session, as those present would later recall, the room seemed to hold its breath. Ebru spoke softly at first, words carefully chosen, then more steadily, as if a lock inside finally yielded. She confessed a truth she had never dared to give language to, a truth she'd kept behind composure and routine. And then she spoke his name aloud, anchoring the room in a single reality. There was nothing theatrical in her admission, it trembled, but it did not break. When her therapist asked why she had never said any of this before, the answer arrived like a thread pulled free from an old knot. Saying it, she admitted, felt like gambling with something she still guarded, even if it didn't live the same way it once did. It didn't take long for that line, paraphrased and reshaped by many voices, to travel across social media. Fans wrote that love, when true, doesn't vanish, it changes, it learns new shapes, it lingers in gentler forms. Others said her words proved that silence can be more honest than declarations, and that sometimes courage looks like tears the world isn't meant to see. If you believe that strength grows from vulnerability, remember to like this video and subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. Here, we don't chase fame, we listen for the human pulse beneath it. Back in that room, the session had gone deeper than anyone expected. Ebru described a night that never stopped echoing, the last time she saw Akın. She remembered letting him go without giving her heart a voice, believing he would understand what she could not say. She thought tenderness would be obvious without words, that some messages are somehow carried by a look or a pause, but later realized that silence can shelter you and still cut you in unexpected places. Elsewhere, far away from the noise, Akın had been navigating a quieter journey of his own. Known for his reserve, he had been reflecting on memory with the same discipline he brings to his craft. In a recent interview, pressed about love left in the past, he offered a single sentence that hung in the air longer than the conversation around it. Certain truths, he said, are understood soul to soul rather than spoken in sentences. It was poetic, and it lit old questions anew. Was he pointing toward Ebru? Many were convinced. Later, those close to him revealed that when Akın learned of Ebru's spoken confession in therapy, he didn't respond at once. He sat in silence for a long while, then eventually offered a line that felt like finishing a circle, that when it came to feelings, she had always been the braver one. The words weren't crafted to trend, they carried the simplicity of recognition, an acknowledgement of a love that hadn't rekindled but had never completely gone dark. Somewhere during this quiet exchange carried by others, another piece of the story surfaced, a note from Ebru, shared not as a letter to the world, but as a sentiment entrusted to a safe pair of hands. She wrote that she hoped he would never treat her memory as a wound. She wished him well, even at a distance. And she described him as both refuge and tempest, the place she ran to and the storm she learned from, two truths that can coexist when the heart refuses to reduce itself to one tidy sentence. When this detail reached the public, curiosity softened into empathy. The conversation shifted from speculation about reunion to a more tender question of closure. She wasn't lighting a signal for a grand return, she was trying to bless what had been and allow it to rest. What do you think, dear friends? In her place, would you have reopened the door, even briefly, to let the air move through old rooms? Or would you have left the lock untouched and trusted time to do its quiet work? Share your thoughts in the comments, we read them all, and your voices guide secrets behind the stars as much as any headline. Whether they met in person after those words were shared remains a mystery. Those in the know say that Akın asked for time. He wasn't certain he was ready to receive every truth that might wait behind that conversation. Days turned into a gentle drift of messages from fans, reminders that closure doesn't always mean coming together. Often it's a conversation that loosens the knot without trying to braid the rope anew. In that lesson, people recognized Ebru's path, healing not as a return, but as a respectful distance crowned with peace. Then a close friend of Akın voiced something that pricked the heart of everyone who has ever replayed their own history. She taught him, the friend said, what it means to love without bargaining for anything back. And if he could bend time, he would never let pride speak louder than feeling. The sentiment carried no glamour, just the unguarded truth of regret, the kind of apology that doesn't land with spectacle because it lives quietly inside. For Ebru, therapy didn't become a bridge to yesterday. It became a passage into acceptance. Witnesses to her later sessions recalled a moment that shifted the floor beneath her. The therapist observed that the people who love most intensely can wound most deeply, not out of cruelty, but because they expect to be understood without explanations. At that, Ebru cried, not as a collapse, but as a release. She whispered that she had wanted to be seen without needing to diagram every layer of her heart. When she walked out that day, those nearby said the air seemed newly washed, as if a window had been opened in a long-closed room. She later told a confidant that maybe this was what she had been searching for all along, not a fresh beginning, but an ending that didn't bruise. Not denial, and not a fairy tale, just a quiet space where gratitude could live beside letting go. That acceptance didn't erase the story, it changed its temperature, softened its edges, and gave it room to breathe without hurting. The turn that no one predicted came not in a magazine spread or an interview, but under the heat of stage lights. Award in hand, applause around him, Akın paused long enough for silence to gather meaning. He offered a line that people would replay again and again, some stories don't close, they simply find a different way to keep breathing. The crowd cheered, taking it as poetry. But those who remembered the earlier whispers heard the undertone, a respectful nod to Ebru, and to a love that hadn't died so much as it had evolved into something gentler, almost ceremonial. Old clips of their scenes began circulating once more, the kind that remind you why audiences first believed there was more than role and script between them. Comment sections filled with reflections and tears. Not every love needs to return, someone wrote. Some loves just need to stop hurting. Perhaps that is the quiet truth at the center of this tale. Love isn't always a loop back to the beginning. Sometimes it is a hand laid softly on the past, a promise to carry it forward without bitterness. And so, dear friends, this is where we leave them for now, not in sadness, but in gratitude for what was given and what was learned. Even love that stays unspoken can cast a warm light, guiding two people to different shores with the same glow. If this story touched you, please like the video and subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. If you feel called to support us further, hit that join button and help us keep telling the delicate, human stories that remind us who we are. Until next time, may your own heart find its rhythm, and may every goodbye teach you something tender about yourself. This is Secrets Behind the Stars, the place where love, loss, and truth are brave enough to be heard.